Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Welcome, everyone.
We have a special guest. We are looking forward to talking to Dr. JT Anderson. Hello, and how are you?
Welcome,
Well,
Doc.
thank you so much. I'm doing fantastic. And again, thank you for all that you're doing for our profession.
So we always ask our guests, the first question is, what is your chiropractic story? Tell us the background.
All right. So for me, I was about 12 years old, and I was kind of the quarterback in our grade school, if you will. And I remember one particular game, I was going back for a deep pass, and I threw the ball, and all of a sudden, my right lower back just immediately gave me sharp pain and dropped me to my knees, and to the point where I couldn't move. And friends had to take me all the way home, literally carry me. And my parents were just dumbfounded. They were like, "This has never happened before." And so they did the traditional ibuprofen and ice and whatnot. 2 weeks later, I was ginger, but I basically did the same type of motion. Again, same thing happened to me. So now they stepped up their game. They said, "Okay, we're going to buy you a water bed, if you know what a water bed is." And so they did that, and then we just did some more traditional things. I knew that I needed to start working out. I needed to start exercising. So I began my journey actually into weightlifting, and that transformed itself into some earlier bodybuilding and powerlifting. But when I was about 15, I was on the junior Olympic team, and there was a chiropractor within our gym, and he noticed how my pelvis was tilted and forward, and he said, "Look, you've got great strength, but your alignment's completely off. Let me go ahead and have you come in for a complimentary exam." Did some pictures, and sure enough, my right pelvis genetically about 16 millimeters low. I have a
Whoa.
spondylolisthesis genetics,
I was going to
and
guess spondylo from what you were saying.
yeah, it's just crazy. And so, long story short, my parents did not know I was going to a chiropractor. I grew up in Minnesota, don't you know, and they very much medical. And so, this chiropractor said, "Look, I will do a 6 week program for you. You can come and maybe do a little work around my office, cleaning up and so forth for payment." He just really took great care of me, and within about 2 or 3 weeks, I started noticing a tremendous difference, and that's kind of where my chiropractic story began.
Wow. So you were young then.
I was
Yeah.
14, 15 years old.
Wow. So it took a while before you might formulate the desire to become a chiropractor.
Yeah,
Is that something
exactly.
that was instilled right then and there, or was it something that came on later?
In high school, I started visiting chiropractors and I started getting adjusted regularly, but I really wanted to do the athletic training. I thought, wow, that would be great to be a professional athletic trainer on a team or even physical therapy. But for some reason, I just kept getting this calling about chiropractic. And in college, I went to Northern Colorado in Greeley, Colorado. I bumped into a chiropractor that specialized in sports medicine. And he said, "Look, if you really want to kind of control your own schedule and also be able to have a lot of different avenues of therapy, chiropractic is for you." So I started going in about every 2 weeks or so and spending 2 or 3 hours. And I just fell in love with what chiropractic had to offer. And as you probably know, athletic trainers, they put in 80 hours a week. They get paid like a school teacher. So there's just not a lot of room for growth. It's kind of a cul-de-sac profession, I call it. Physical therapists you really have to take direct referrals from medical doctors. Very rarely do you see a PT doing it on their own anymore. So
Mhm.
chiropractic is an avenue that really allows you to expand and grow.
Wow. Well, that's a great story. I mean, especially since you were inspired so young, to
Yeah,
be able
thank
to
you.
move into the profession. So you graduate from chiropractic school and you start, open a practice, I assume, or go work for somebody in a practice. How did you get into the sports world?
So in 1995, I graduated. Just kind of blew through all of my credits, got through all of it very quickly, and I did an internship for a year while I was waiting to actually graduate. And I started getting involved. I did a lot of personal training, and it was just a very easy transition for me to start working in the sports field. At that particular time, I was very high level racquetball player, and I joined a health club that had pretty decent racquetball players within it, and people got to know me a little bit more, and they wanted to see what my story was, and they started coming in and treating them. The first patient that I ever had a chance to treat, his name was Glenn Milburn. He was a scat back running back from Stanford. Amazing man, amazing man. I was taking care of a clinic for about a month while the doctor was on vacation, and we just gravitated toward one another. And he asked me, he said, "Look, I really like the way you're working with me."
Mm.
And that was a tough thing because, I didn't want to steal a patient, but the reality is that was kind of my destiny. And he ended up referring Terrell Davis, his rookie year. If you know
Yeah.
who Terrell Davis is, he came in. At that point, I had a office in my apartment, and Terrell came in with his little Georgia hat and a lot of headaches and so forth. And we started working with his neck. And
Bet.
pretty soon, the head athletic trainer called me up and said, "Look, we've heard great things that you've been taking care of our athletes. We'd like to have you check out our two big linemen rookies. We're going to send them up your way. We want you to treat them complimentary, and then they're going to give us some feedback." And I guess I impressed them enough that they brought me in for an interview, and that's how it all began.
Wow. That's a
Very
great. So what
cool.
was the first team you were with?
That was the first team I was with,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you a real quick story. So the Colorado Avalanche came to Denver in 1995 and 96, and I had treated Claude Lemieux, and who just passed away, unfortunately. He had some serious back issues. I remember them beating the Detroit Red Wings to go to the Stanley Cup, and I ended up finagling my way into their basically the restaurant where they're having their congratulatory dinner. I was kind of caretaking for an older gentleman, a distinguished gentleman, and we were able to just kind of get our way into that area. They sat us down, gave us appetizers and a few drinks, and Claude Lemieux strolls in, Peter Forsberg, Patrick Waugh, and Claude Lemieux came in with a big cigar, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Lemieux, I have a question for you. I understand you're having some lower back issues." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, look, I can help you." So that conversation turned into the next day on a Saturday. He came in and I treated him Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and he was able to participate in the Stanley Cup. I got a call from the head athletic trainer over the summer after they won the Stanley Cup and said, "Yeah, we've heard you did great work with Claude. We're looking for a chiropractor." So I went in for an interview. This was at McNichols Arena, which now is torn down. And I remember sitting there with him and another athletic trainer, and we had a great conversation. And I wrote a paper in college about how to train, kind of a 6-week training cycle, 6 weeks powerlifting and then training and so forth. And I brought that article with me, and they just signed somebody that was very much into weightlifting. And all ironically enough, as the interview was concluding, this gentleman walks in the locker room, and I got so excited, I forgot where I was. I pulled out this article and I said, "Hey, look, I think you'd really enjoy this article." And he looks at me like, "Who are you?" He looked at the article and he gave it to the trainer, and the trainer looked at it and he said, "Here you go." And the trainer looked at me and he said, "Hey, if you ever have an opportunity to interview with another professional sports team, don't do what you just did." And he walked me out of the McNichols Arena, and basically with my tail between my legs, and that was the story. But then the next year with the Broncos, so that was a real tough thing for a long time, hard pill to swallow.
So
You
you
have
said
to
you're
laugh.
from Minnesota, right?
Originally, yep.
You know what a
Yeah.
Juicy Lucy is?
Oh gosh, I
Where's
turned
the
my
best
son onto
place?
the Juicy Lucy's.
Where's the best place you think to get one of those?
There I can't tell you that because I'm not from there, like, day to day, but
Yeah.
there's one down my, stadiums, the Twins and the Vikings stadiums. It's the first one they call, and I remember taking my son there, and I can't think of the name of it, but Juicy Lucy, we had I think it was the wild rice and mushroom Juicy Lucy.
Oh, well, I
Awesome.
gotta tell you, this is the 3rd podcast Paul has mentioned Juicy Lucy,
Well,
so
if they're
now it's
from the
like,
area, I'm
all right,
gonna ask,
I
you know?
need to get a Juicy Lucy,
I
you know what I mean?
ironically, I
Oh
haven't
my
had one
god.
yet.
Just
But it's
explodes,
literally
it
the 3rd
explodes in your
3rd
mouth.
opinion he's gotten on it.
Yeah.
Everybody says the same thing.
Yeah, usually they have favorites. So when did you find time to wanna pen some books?
When I was in 7th and 8th grade, I just enjoyed English, and I wrote, a story about a mouse and the adventures of, Sammy the mouse. Sam would ride a motorcycle, Sam goes to the beach, all these little short stories, they were maybe 5 to 8 pages, and I had a collection of them, and I always just enjoyed writing stories. I had a creative imagination, and as I got into chiropractic school, I realized that if you don't tell your story, nobody's gonna
Mm.
ever, know who you are, including my own kids and my family, kind of a legacy. So the first book that I wrote, called Outside the Fence: A Father's Journey from a Coach to a Fan. And I don't know about you, but I was able to get involved with coaching my son in baseball, t-ball, 5 years old, 6 years old, up until he went to high school. I mean, I was always kind of the assistant because in a practice, we have hours that we just can't fully commit. So assistant was fine. Long story short, when you got into high school, I was given my pink slip and I had to find out where my
This is the
place.
second time you're telling me this, right?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. I'm
keeping
like,
track actually. Yeah, no.
so now I'm on the outside of the fence looking in. I'm sitting with the dads that never coached and the moms, and I was pacing back and forth. And I remember my son's freshman year, he did really well, and he made the varsity that year. And he was like fourth up or fifth up to bat, I think it was. And he was. I told him, look, hey, I was on the outside the fence, and he was coming up to. He was on the on deck circle, and I said, if you notice, he's always starting these guys off with a fastball, and you got to watch for the curve. And he looked at me and he put his hand up and he said, Dad, I got it. And I just kind of waltzed back to the bleachers and I sat down and I said, "Well, my story is done."
There
And
you
so
go.
this book, there's 10 other dads that poured their heart and souls into it as well, and it brings
Nice.
back a lot of memories.
It's
So
interesting. You were saying that all that you went through being a weightlifter and just a little bit that I'm seeing on screen here. You look like you're a good sized guy. And a lot of times, I have other friends that treat teams, and they're kind of slight in their builds,
Is
not
that right? Okay.
necessarily. So maybe could you just give us a little bit of insight about technique and is it an advantage or disadvantage to be a big, strong guy?
Well, in the football world, it is. I mean, you have to have great technique. The studies show, and you could look this up, but an average chiropractor lasts about 7 years before they just can't go anymore. And so, techniques like activator and SOT and best and all of those are techniques that keep your body going. But if you're a manual, diversified Gonstead type of adjuster, the chances of you herniating a disc or blowing out a shoulder is quite high. And so,
Mhm.
you have to develop certain techniques. And even today, I'm not doing side posture as much as I used to, right? I live in the Villages of Florida. It's the largest retirement community in the world, 55 plus. So a lot of our more seasoned patients, they have a lot of arthritic changes, a lot of disc thinning. So I'm not going to put them in a side posture and try to snap or crack their back. I'm going to do a lot of soft tissue work, stretching, keep their body moving. But going back to the professional world, so I was the Denver lacrosse Outlaws team chiropractor, and these guys are strong and big as well. But the sports teams that I work with, you do have to have a certain amount of quickness about you as opposed to strength.
Yeah. I know. I just know it's a lot of in people's minds, like say, "Oh, great, you're successful with these people, but I'm an activator practitioner." Is that something that I should pursue? Yes.
It probably wouldn't fly in the professional world. I hate to say it. I believe in an activator. Personally, I use the arthrostim quite a bit. I think it's fantastic. But if you go into an athletic trainer and you say, "Well, I'm going to use my activator on your patients," he's going to be probably not impressed. I hate to say it. It's just the reality is they're looking for somebody to manipulate and to adjust and move bodies.
that makes
Were
sense.
you regular with your patients? Was this kind of when you were the team chiropractor? Was it wait until they had a problem, or did you see them regularly?
Yeah, I had my following. You have to remember you're dealing with 53 active players. And then you have another 12 or 15 on the practice squad and injuries and so forth. What I would say is I'd probably see about 70% of those athletes on a regular basis. Some would
Mm.
come in only when they're hurting, but the majority of the people on Tuesdays and Thursdays would line up. And then all of a sudden you start seeing people like the sports writers, Adam Schefter, if you know who that is. For instance, I would work on him with his hands. He would back in the day, you would write. You
Right.
wouldn't actually use transcriptors or any type of computer work, and, but then all of a sudden you get the coaches that wanted to come in, and then you get the different trainers that wanted to come in, so it wasn't just the players, you kinda had to help the whole team. So what they're doing now, most of the teams, they have multiple chiropractors to kind of offload, whereas for me, I was just heart and sweat and pour, for 8 months out of the year, twice a week, and it definitely took its toll on me for sure.
Would you say that there's, because again, observing friends that move in this direction, they are either one of two types. They're the type that they're on the field, they're there all the time, they wait, they put a lot of their energy and time into being there, or they come see me at my office when they're not playing, and certainly I'm available if there's an issue. Because one would think in practice that would take a lot of your time and energy dedicating yourself to the actual team when they're playing.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing, you don't get paid a whole lot. In fact, a lot of chiropractors are paying for the position. So when I worked with the Denver Outlaws for
That's
2 years,
interesting, yeah.
they came to me my third year during the summer, during the off season, and they said, "Hey, doc, we have a chiropractor that's in Fort Collins, and I guess he takes care of the Rams lacrosse team, and he's wanting to come in as the team chiropractor, and he's willing to pay us $7,000 to be the team chiropractor, and in return, we'll promote them, we'll advertise for them, you'll get free swag." And I said, "Look, I've got to talk to my wife about this. I've really dedicated myself to the team, but." I came back to him and I said, "Look, I just don't want to have to pay for this. I don't mind giving my services because the Broncos, I got paid. Colorado Crush, I did not. And then the Colorado Outlaws, that was kind of a pro bono. I mean, you get all
They
sorts
were
of
outlaws, what
cool,
do you want,
yeah, you get perks and all that. But the reality is now it's a business, and so, I realized that it was tough because I really enjoyed the lacrosse part of it. A lot of different injuries that you don't see in football, a lot of slashing injuries and broken bones and things, but, um, I a lot of cool athletes that I've worked on over the years. I worked on a professional dart player, Cirque du
Oh,
Soleil
wait,
performers,
alright, so what was the main problem with a professional tag player?
neck issue,
Neck, okay.
yeah, but, you don't
Not
realize, like,
forefinger and
when
thumb?
No, I know, well, that's a good point. So the segue is this, like, with the kicker for the Broncos and the punter, they didn't really want me to mess with their hips, their knees, their ankles because, a little bit of a degree of separation, right, and you start adjusting that area, now, they're lining up for a 50-yard field goal, and you've just got done readjusting their hip, it could change the whole trajectory. So
Huh,
you have to realize that each individual player has a role, and not everybody needs to be adjusted, like the shoulder, for instance, for a quarterback, you don't want to go in there and do a lot of manipulation and create a problem because you've got to answer to the trainer and, of course, then the agent. There's a whole trickle down effect. These are multi-million dollar thoroughbred horses.
So if they miss a field goal, we're gonna blame the chiropractor is what you're
They
saying.
might, and I'll be out of a job.
I have a good friend who is an absolute Kansas City fan, the Chiefs
Mm.
fan, so any advice for Patrick Mahomes while you have the opportunity?
Well, he's got about 500 million reasons now that he can just
Exactly.
enjoy his life, and that's just what he deserves as a player. But you think about all of the free things that he gets and the promotions.
Mhm.
I mean, he's pretty well set. I hope he uses that type of income for, the betterment of people,
Right. I look at the Lindsey Vonn story and I think to myself, how is she even walking, let alone competing? And obviously she didn't do well with the competition, but now here she is. They're all over the news again, trying to, oh, her comeback, her comeback. And it's like, how is that possible from your
I think
perspective?
I think mind over matter, right? I mean, these athletes reach a pinnacle because they are so focused and they're so gifted that their physical bodies are kind of secondary to their mind.
Alright, I'm gonna say something controversial though, Doc. Is she do you think the person that she bumped is looking at what she did and said, "Ah, if that was just me up there." Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the questions we don't know that the inquiring minds want to know. I just don't have the answer.
Yeah. So, as someone who wrote, looks like 4 books, your latest book, Younger Me, Older Me, Live Life Now, in looking at the description, it
That's because
is
he's in the villages.
right. Well, I mean, it looks less like a chiropractic book and more of sort of a this was my life and this could be your life book almost.
I'll be 58 July 4th coming around the corner and, go America 250 years, right? But,
Yes, for
Right
sure.
on.
the reality is living here, a lot of my friends are older. They're 60, 70, 5 years old. I play pickleball and golf with them. But we sit around and we talk about cataract surgeries, prostate exams. We talk about different
Riveting.
hardware in the bodies. In Colorado, we talk about kids graduating, getting married.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, I'm starting to look at my life, at least I did a couple years ago, going, wow, all of a sudden I'm going to be 70 before I know it. And I'm not going to say it's scary, but that's why I believe in chiropractic. I believe in
I
nutrition.
don't know, Mark, is it scary?
It is scary. I can tell you right now, I turned 70 last year, and it's
Oh, you
scary.
did?
Thanks for that
Well,
lob, doc.
Yeah, you just he gives me a hard time all the time, and you just gave it to him, that was just right across the
Perfect.
plate. Yeah.
but Doc, your body has changed, and I think this book is really about taking care of your relationships, your health, finances. I kind of have a whole departments of different areas. And I'm currently writing a book right now called Beyond the Brick and Mortar. And as a chiropractor, you're kind of surrounded by the four walls. And I used the term earlier, a cul-de-sac profession. There's a potential for growth, no doubt about it. We have some incredible chiropractors out there. But there's also guys like me where you kind of are on an island and the four walls kind of define who you are and your income. If you're out, you don't have an associate, you're not making income. So I'm developing for my own self how I can get outside of the four walls where I'm going to be doing more pickleball. That's kind of my pickle fit doc. That's who I am
Mm.
here in the villages. But I'm going to be really reaching out to the pickleball community all over the country and doing different opportunities of telemedicine. When you have an injury, where do you go and how do you take care of it? Even though I won't be able to physically take care of them, I'll be a good sounding board. But that's
Well,
beyond the brick and mortar.
definitely let us know. We can have a conversation in another direction after,
Sounds good.
we have avenues for that.
Sounds good.
So,
So, what do you see as the challenges for the newer chiropractor today versus when you came up?
Well, I think if I had to do it all over again, I would have hired a coach right off the bat. I think that some of our more mature, seasoned chiropractors, and now that I'm calling myself that, I look at it saying, that's why I'm reaching out with my books and also on LinkedIn. I'm trying to let people know that you're not alone. And starting up your own practice fresh out of school is very, very daunting, especially if you want to jump into the insurance world. For 20 years, did a lot of insurance, and then I moved on into self-pay or cash practice. But I would say to the younger chiropractors or students out there, look at a coach. They'll give you great discounts and they'll give you an opportunity to get set up. And then find a chiropractic clinic that suits you and learn from them. Learn from their mistakes, learn from their strengths before you just start going out on your own. Because, once you sign the dotted line on a 5-year lease, you're kind of stuck. And, your hope and prayer is that people will come in and see how good you are. And you may be the best chiropractor in the world, but you need to have the opportunity of iron sharpening iron, and that's kind of what I would encourage doctors to do is getting together and forming an alliance with one another.
it's good advice today because certainly it's a different world. It was way more fun practicing when we were quacks. I always yeah.
Well, one of the biggest challenges that Dr. Davini and I talk about a lot in our podcast is the financial aspect of a new grad coming out with, just hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, which ends up being probably more than their rent every month and trying to pay that back. And so someone like I'm not a chiropractor, but I hear that and say, well, hire a coach. I would imagine that a younger doc's response is, how do I find the money for that? Like it's challenging.
I think you have to look at it and I do when I'm working with patients, I talk about a body budget, because they'll look at me and they'll say, well, does your insurance cover such and such, shockwave, decompression? And you have to kind of break those barriers down. And when I'm coaching and teaching doctors and students, I let them know, look, you have to find the tribe that believes in your PSI, your product, service, and ideas. You do not want to mess around with those patients that are going to drag you down and that just aren't going to hear your message. As far as financing a coach, you're going to make up the money very quickly because of the way the coach is going to direct you. I create within my content power partners. When you are looking to align yourself with your tribe, who are you power partnering with? For instance, in the chiropractic world, you really want to make sure that if you don't have massage therapy, reach out to them. Pilates instructors, personal trainers, those are great power partners. If you dive into pain management, for instance, you're going to see those people that have already been through chiropractic and they're doing injections. They're really insurance heavy, is what I call it.
Mm.
They're probably not your tribe, at least they're not my tribe. So I'm not going to really go banging on pain management doctors. Not to say that I wouldn't, but my focus is going to be primarily on those individuals that I can build an alliance with and that I can develop a relationship with, and I'm the go-to chiropractor that they're referring to.
Very cool. Interesting. We were just talking about this on another podcast, but what do you think is the state with the most senior representatives in Medicare? Most people would probably gravitate toward where you are, right?
Yeah, I think so. And with Medicare, and I tell people this is
It's
that
actually Maine, though, just to let you know. It's actually
okay,
the state of Maine.
okay,
You guys,
good.
but Florida only ties Massachusetts.
Mm, yeah, we have a
Have
lot
you
of
been to
Michigan.
the Villages, Mark? Because, Doc, my wife's aunt lives across the street from it, and they're expanding every day. I mean, they've gone way down the road, and it's just been for Central Florida, it's been amazing to see something like the Villages just expand and expand and expand.
Well, we have over 50 golf courses, 350 pickleball courts, and
Whoa.
it's amazing. We have 3,000 clubs. In fact, I have a friend of mine who was a SWAT team guy, CIA. He joined the gem cutting class. I said, gem cutting? Yeah, once a month, I pay them $20. They give me this big, large geode, and we learn how to cut that geode, and we see these beautiful gems. And you go to his house, and he's got a display of all these gems. But the Villages is just it's adult paradise that for me allows for freedom and a balance between work and life and pleasure.
Do they still have the happy paper? My aunt used to call it.
Happy paper.
Yeah, the Villages sends it like has a publication, but it's all happy news.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see a lot of negativity. There was a comedian that came in here a number of years ago and talked about STDs and loofahs and all that, and it got a big
Well, the Villages is known for one thing, I know.
the STDs, yeah. But the reality is, you're getting people that are, dying, unfortunately, they're losing their spouses, and they're
Yeah.
like, "With
Hey,
freedom," and
yeah,
so
have at it, I guess, right?
It takes a
yeah.
village, right? Yeah.
Too
Oh my
funny.
God. So
All right, Doc, we appreciate your time. This is shameless plug time. Let's have it. What do you got?
Okay. Well, you can go to my website. It's just JT Anderson, all one word, .biz, B-I-Z. That's where my book website is. And if you get on Facebook, I'm Pickle Fit Doc. You can subscribe and learn a little bit about pickleball. It's the fastest growing sport in America. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I just look forward to connecting to the community. Right now on LinkedIn, I've got about 14,000 connections. Majority of them are chiropractors. And every week I'm
nice.
on there trying to make connections because I think the brothers and sisters that we have in chiropractic, we need to stay strong and keep continuing the message. And I encourage those that are looking at school or in school right now to, find somebody that mentors you and keeps encouraging you day to day.
So you probably noticed both logos on our back of our screens here. The Tools of Practice is the company that Dr. Davini and I have, which is compliance and education for chiropractors. So it fits into your tribe for sure if they're looking for any of that. Anderson's with an O, by the way, out there. So if you're looking for JT Anderson online, it's not an E, it's an O at the end for sure.
The true way to say it, right?
Ah,
Son, Anders'
yeah.
son.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's funny how LinkedIn is a great way to connect because I think the other socials aren't the B2B kind of connections, which is really cool. To thank you for reaching out on there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was
Appreciate it
great.
very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. So the next book, when's it coming out?
Probably it'll be the fall. It's pretty much packaged and ready to deliver. Uh,
Fall 2026.
yeah, fall of 2026. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll
Has your
always
writing
be
process changed from the first book to now? I mean, I would imagine that it evolved over time, right? Was it harder to write the first book, or is it harder to write the next book?
no, much more difficult to write the first book because
Yeah.
you want to listen, you want to be perfectionist. And the reality is sometimes messy action beats perfectionism. And I've just learned that some people will hear my message and appreciate it and other people won't. And that's okay.
So, like, do you storyboard, outline, and all this stuff that you always see or hear about with authors, or you just like have at it?
I have at it.
love
Figure it out in the end.
I
Yeah.
love it.
That's awesome.
That's the way to be, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Doc. We appreciate your time. It was great to
Thank
get to
you.
know you for sure. And we hope we connect again at some point.
Well, and again, thanks. Just plugging you guys. I mean, you're doing things for us that, I really appreciate because you're keeping us on the map and you're keeping us educated and informed. And I just give my hat off to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. J.T. Anderson, thank you. I'm Paul Andrews from All Things Chiropractic. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.